Adetunji has been extensively involved in training of farmers in Osun State, and this has taken him through several localities in this state. He has engaged farmers in several areas, particularly Fadama program, and he has impacted significantly to our local farmers. It's therefore my pleasure and privilege to invite Adetunji Lawrence Kende to deliver his lecture. I wish you very safe delivery.
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Research, Innovation and Partnerships, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration and Development, Registrar, Bossa, University Librarian, Provost of Colleges, Deans of Faculties, Academic Directors, Heads of Departments, students of Osun State University, gentlemen of the press, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience. On a lighter note, this lecture, which was initially scheduled for 1st of April, is now holding and not an April Fool, as customary of pranks made on such a day. I'm sure so many people thought it was April Fool. Never mind that the COVID-19 pandemic that spread around the world like wildfire caused the inadvertent postponement of this lecture, which is now holding today according to God's will. The wisdom here is that nothing happens except God permits it, and that He makes everything beautiful in its time. Were it not for the disruption, the lecture might not have been transmitted virtually, and participation would have been restricted to this auditorium. I therefore warmly welcome you to this lecture and request that you sit comfortably and enjoy every bit of it. Really, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. All glory, all honor, all adoration to God Almighty, my Maker and Redeemer, for making it possible for me to present the first and maybe the only in the series of the university's inaugural lecture for this year and for the 2019-2020 session. Interestingly, at the last inaugural lecture, series number 012, presented by Professor Janet Olaitan, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration and Development, as I congratulated her after the lecture, she remarked jokingly that she had handed the baton over to me as the next lecturer. I assume it was a joke, but today it has become prophetic. I hope by God's grace, I will also be able to prophesy and hand over the baton to the next lecturer. So, dear colleagues who are yet to present, be mindful of my utterances after today's lecture. Mindful of my utterances after today's lecture. So get ready. Let me declare on this auspicious occasion that I feel most privileged and honored to present the 13th in the series of inaugural lecture of this university. The third from the College of Agriculture and the first from the Department of Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness Management. I will be sharing with you this day my research and scholarship voyage in the field of agricultural economics and in the specialization of resource economics. Indeed, I consider it interesting to present to you the nexus between resource use by peasant farmers and food production. My inquiry on the essence of inaugural lecture reveals that it has different interpretations depending on the clime. But for the purpose of today's lecture, I choose to adopt the original concept of an inaugural lecture, which has a Latin origin and connotes fresh beginning and an initiation. I therefore announce that this lecture is signaling the beginning of a profound and mature scholarship with increased productivity rather than the termination of my research career. I choose not to follow the path of some academics that end their scholarship when they attain the status of a professor. I go straight to my adventure in the field of agricultural economics. It actually didn't surprise me that I ended up to be an agricultural economist. My upbringing was one of big inspiration. I grew up and got trained as a manager of resources by managing my mother's neighborhood shop for so many years. She is here today, and she can tell whether I was a good manager or not. She is seated there. In the context of a resource, I like us to know that time too is included. I also grew up to 8 wastages. So unconsciously, I was always making maximum use of whatever resources I had and using it wisely. This clearly is the concept of resource use efficiency. This was the concept that underpinned my doctoral research, and a lot of my research work revolved around this. It was not until my career in the university that I got to understand clearly that an agricultural economics is a resource manager, among other things, because of the versatility that the profession allows. Today's lecture. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience. Today's lecture is titled Nigerian Peasantized Agriculture, the Paradox of the Poor, Feeding the Multitude. In deciding on the choice of title, interestingly, I fell into the same crisis research students fall into in arriving at suitable research titles. After juggling with several options, I consulted you, that's the Vice Chancellor, as a mentor and an academic father of so many years. You requested that I allow you meditate over the initial title I was working with, and you eventually helped to arrive at the title of today's lecture, which I profoundly appreciate, sir. The title aptly captures my major research focus, as would be seen in today's lecture. Let me not digress at this point by going into details of my relationship with the Vice Chancellor. I will dwell on that during the acknowledgments. I would like to observe that the title also has a root in the Holy Bible. This is the case of the poor who presented to Jesus 5 loaves of bread and 2 pieces of fish when there was need to feed the multitude. That was under Jesus' teaching in Matthew 14, 13 to 21. Jesus fed the multitude, numbering up to 5,000 men. And it was recorded that they were filled, and there were also remnants of baskets of food. My research results will elucidate on why we are not well fed and why we are not having enough marketable surpluses of food today. I think the God factor is missing, as we have mismanaged the resources God has blessed the nation with by sliding deep into corruption and not loving our neighbors. We are mostly only religious but not godly. Back to the topic of discourse. I wish to state that dating back to Nigeria's pre- and post-independence, peasant agriculture has been the backbone of Nigeria's food production and has already risen to the point of being the culture of food production. In essence, this type of agriculture can be described as peasantized. The group of farmers engaged in it produces the bulk of our nation's food, and the farmer on the average are characteristically resource poor. These farmers have already attained high level of technical and allocative efficiencies and may not be able to surpass present production levels given the resources available to them. These are the people who feed us. And several studies have confirmed their inability to meet up with national food demand. Thus, Nigeria remains a net food importer, which calls for a rethink of food production for the sake of national food security. I will proceed straight to elucidate on some conceptual definitions. I start with the concept of peasant agriculture stroke peasant farmer. Peasant agriculture is a farming system that is predominant in Nigeria and to a large extent in most parts of Africa. It is characterized by relatively low intensity of land utilization, dominance of hand tools, dependence on climate and weather, and less restrictively by a high proportion of female labor. The fact that the preceding characterized our agriculture and has now become an enduring culture after so many decades, particularly post-independence, necessitated the adjective peasantized to describe Nigerian agriculture. The concept of food security. Food security refers to the condition in which all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. FAO 1996, FAO and WHO 1992. Food security, however, implies insufficient food intake, lack of access to food of adequate dietary quality, anxiety over food supplies, and having to acquire food in socially unacceptable ways. Protein, energy malnutrition, stunting, and wasting reflect severe food insecurity, FAO 2012. Food security has three dimensions. These are food availability, food access, and food utilization. The concept of zero hunger. This describes the second sustainable development goal of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. The goal seeks to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Progress achieved on this goal is best captured by the global performance on the Global Hunger Index, the GHI. It has four main indicators which describe country performances with focus on indicators such as undernourishment, child stunting, child wasting, and child mortality. The GHI scale ranges from 0 to 100, and 0 being a state of no hunger, and 100 being the worst status of hunger. The GAI has witnessed successive declines since 2000, with a fall from 29.0 to 20.0 in 2019, and indicated that the level of hunger and undernutrition worldwide fall within the boundaries of moderate to serious hunger. Nigeria, however, with a score of 27.9, falls in the serious category and ranked 93 out of 117 countries considered in the report. That's the Global Hunger Index with its main indicators. The chart, can you please display the chart to show the ranking of how Nigeria fared among selected African countries? As a matter of fact, Nigeria ranked 22nd in Africa in terms of hunger severity. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience, food security is a cardinal aspect of achieving zero hunger. And Nigeria's peasant farmers are key stakeholders. Therefore, drawing on the targets of Goal 2 of the SDG, Nigeria agriculture will need to persist in effort towards drastically improving incomes of small-scale farmers, as well as ensuring sustainable food production system by implementing resilient agricultural practices. The concept of resources. A resource is any factor or material that has value and provides utility. Examples are factors of production and other intangible materials such as human knowledge. Resources can also be referred to as inputs or factors of production. Inputs can be classified into four main categories, namely natural resources, labor, which is the human resource component of production, capital, which is man-made or referred to as value-added items used to produce other commodities, management or entrepreneurship, which is qualitative and subjectively measured. Resources have two main categories. We have the renewable natural resources and the non-renewable natural resources. I move on to theoretical underpinnings of my major researches. Here, I won't dwell deeply because of some of the technical details that will mostly be useful to people within the field of economics. But here, I like to state that the concept of efficiency that my work dwells on mostly builds on the production function analysis. So I go ahead to define production. This is the process of transforming inputs into outputs. And a production function describes a technical relationship that transforms resources into outputs. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience, I have researched extensively on production functions, trying to understand farmers' resource use behavior, as well as resource use behavior in wood milling. Some of the studies, Apata et al. 2011, Aoyemi and Kende 2005, Kende and Aotide 2009, Kende et al. 2010, Kende et al. 2015. The concept of efficiency. Economic efficiency combines technical and allocative efficiencies. Economic efficiency is generally defined as the ability of production organization or unit to produce a specified output at the minimum cost. Economic efficiency is a product of technical and allocative efficiency. So technical efficiency refers to the ability of a firm to produce a given level of output with a minimum quantity of input under a given technology. Allocative efficiency, however, refers to selection of optimum combination of inputs when relative factor prices are given. Conceptually, to estimate efficiency, the frontier production is usually engaged. The frontier production function started in the early days with the estimation of ordinary least square. And as from 1957, the econometric modeling of estimating frontier gained prominence and up till today. So we have figure one. Can you please display figure one? Figure one shows a production isoquant in the input-output space, representing two inputs. Then figure two shows a production frontier using econometric modeling. The source is Bates 1992. The econometric modeling is such that it has two distinct aspects. That is, estimating efficiency through the deterministic frontier and estimating efficiency through the stochastic frontier. But the two models, or the two approaches, technical efficiency of a firm associated with deterministic and frontier and excuse me, the technical efficiency of a firm associated with the deterministic and stochastic frontier has different value for the two models. However, for a given set of data, the estimated technical efficiency is obtained by fitting a deterministic frontier so that no output value exceeds it, unlike the stochastic frontier, where output value exceeds it. The concept of cost or allocative efficiency. Using the duality condition, cost frontier can be derived from the estimated production frontier. Direct estimation of cost frontier is also possible, and their corresponding production frontier may be derived. Following Aigner et al. 1977 and Lovell 1993, the stochastic frontier approach can be used to specify cost efficiency. Cost efficiency measures how close a firm's cost is to optimal cost for producing the same bundle of outputs. It then provides information on waste in the production process and on the optimality of the chosen mix of inputs. The basic model assumes that total cost deviates from the optimal cost by random disturbance V and an inefficiency term U. The determinants of efficiency. This section relates with measurement of factors that contribute to inefficiency. Following Kalirajan, 1991, this study used efficiency measure as dependent variable in the second stage regression to explain the cause of inefficiency. Typically, the explanatory variable consists of socioeconomic factors such as the farmer's age and education, or other variables describing the farming operation, as in Kalirajan 1990 and Fan et al. 1996. In justifying this approach, the argument is made that firm-specific factors exert indirect effect on production through the association with inefficiency. So their effect is appropriately modeled in a two-stage procedure. The two have argued that the two-step procedure is justifiable if one assumes that the production function is multiplicative, separable, in what we refer to as discretionary and non-discretionary inputs. The production inputs are typically included in production function model, while the socioeconomic factors are those commonly used to explain variations in efficiency. Bates et al. 1989 and Kumbako et al. 1991 have criticized this approach, arguing that socioeconomic variables should be incorporated directly in the production frontier because such variables may have direct impacts on efficiency. Another approach involving computing correlation coefficient or conducting, another approach involves computing correlation coefficient or conducting other simple parametric analysis. Bravo, Ureta, and Evanson, 1994. The three concepts of efficiency that I've just finished discussing relates to measurements of efficiency at the firm level or the firm level, aggregate efficiency. Resource use efficiency relates to efficiency of particular resource or inputs in the production process. And in this case, marginal value product, which is the marginal value, MVP, which is the marginal value product, which is the marginal product, multiplied by the price per unit of output in the use of a factor of productive resource, is the measurement. A resource is therefore optimally or efficiently used when the marginal value product in the use of such resource is equal to the price per unit of such resource, that is MVP equals P. If MVP is less than price, then the use of resource by a production unit or farmer is overutilized and resource allocation is not efficient. Also, if MVP is greater than price per unit of resource used, then the use of the resource is underutilized and not efficiently allocated. So I leave the abstract realm and I come closer to the auditorium. Nigerian agriculture and food production. I gave the previous sections to the agriculture economics and the economists. So I'm back fully to the auditorium. Nigeria agriculture and food production. Agriculture is one of the most important productive sectors of the Nigerian economy in terms of its contribution, with a contribution of 29.25 to real GDP in Q3 of 2019. It represents one of the most important contributors to the non-oil GDP, which accounted for 90.23 as against the 8.78 contribution from oil during the same period. National Bureau of Statistics 2019. The economy over the years has shown structural rigidity with the dominance of agriculture in terms of contribution to GDP. And the Vision 2020 regards this as an indicator of underdevelopment. A forward-looking approach will be to transform more of the primary produce into the processed form where the share of agriculture to GDP will shrink, arising from increased manufacturing activities. Nigerian agriculture in the pre-independence era witnessed a country that was food self-sufficient, and Nigeria retained this status until the early 70s when global crude oil market boomed. During the mid-70s, Nigeria gradually slipped into food dependence and hunger. This was fueled principally by the nation's unbridled appetite for imported food and non-essential items. Massive movement of labor from the rural to the urban areas in favor of wage employment, movement into non-agricultural activities in the rural area, massive government spending on public services such as road, airports, education, health, defense, etc., which all combine to cause the neglect of agriculture. Till date, Nigeria has yet to recover back its glorious days of food self-sufficiency. Consequently, plethora of policies and programs have been put in place since the 70s by the federal government of Nigeria to address food insecurity and other closely related problems, such as low productivity in the major economic sectors, underemployment, poor urban and rural infrastructure, and low farm incomes. Some of the policies we already know, NAFF, NAUDA, NFSP, River Basin Development Authorities, NEEDS, and currently we have Green Alternative, which is the most recent, the policy being implemented by the Buhari administration. In spite of these efforts, Nigeria is still faced with the challenge of meeting the basic food needs of its population. For large segment of the population, acute food shortage and nutritional insecurity keep on increasing by the day. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience, Nigeria is rich in terms of policy prescription. What we are lacking is the political will to implement our numerous policies. As far back as 2008, the visionaries of the Vision 2020 aptly stated, and I quote, "In the context of the nations becoming the largest shows the array of ages of farmers in different locations within the country. Awoyemi and Kehinde 2005 reported an age range of 36 to 45 for farmers in Oyo and Osun states. Kehinde et al. 2015 reviewed an age range of between 50 and 59. Kehinde and Falaye 2014, majority of farmers, 43% of them fell between 40 and 60 years, and so on and so forth. But the foregoing reveals that the average age of farmer is more than 45 years, indicating that farmers that produce the bulk of the national food needs are moving to the age bracket of declining productivity and will endanger food supply in the long run, if not reversed. I would like to, of course, with the age range that I've listed, we all discovered that the youths are missing. So I would like to throw to the audience the poster thrown at me during a discussion with a fatherly figure. The poster is that the Nigerian Nigerian Universal Basic Education Policy, which implies compulsory education for all children from early childhood to the first 3 years of secondary. The poster is that there's a universal basic education policy that implies compulsory education for children from childhood to the first 3 years of secondary education. What is the plan to engage these children who will not be able to go beyond this compulsory stage? And the simple answer, in my own opinion, is to redesign agriculture such that the land settlement scheme, the existing one, should be set up with the required infrastructure to provide decent quality of life and reasonable land holdings to attract youth into farming that will provide them with decent incomes. The truth is that without the prospect of decent incomes, youth will not go into agriculture. What about the problem of hoe and cutlass? The fact is that youth hate hoe and cutlass. The drudgery of peasant farming through the use of hoe and cutlass also discourage the youth. Policy must address this issue in order to make farming attractive to our digitally literate youth. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience, I have a picture here. I have a picture of cyclists waiting endlessly for passengers. And one will wonder where these ones should be. You see the farmer even telling the cyclists that they should be on the farm. So that is what should happen. Gender, Kehinde et al. 2015 compared technical efficiency of female and male vegetable farmers in Osun State. The study showed that 57% of the farmers were female, while 43% were male. The stochastic frontier production function and efficiency ratio were used to determine farmers' level of technical efficiency and resource utilization patterns. The study revealed that capital and labor were important determinants of vegetable output by male farmers, while labor and land were important determinants for female farmers. The study showed that both male and female farmers exhibited some degree of inefficiency in the use of all their resources, while the male farmers were more efficient than their female counterparts with 83% and 81% level of efficiency respectively. Policy will therefore need to focus on acquisition of capital resources like seeds, equipment and irrigation facilities to enable farmers to increase their present level of efficiency and contribute more to national food supply. Then I move to education. You agree education is another indicator of quality of labor. The level of formal education attainment by farmer is a good indication for quality of labor because several studies have established that education enhances labor productivity. In most of the studies I have participated in, level of education attainment was measured by the number of years of formal education or number of years spent schooling. The distribution of formal education in some of my studies as presented in the chart above. There was a study by Awoyemi and Kende 2005 in Oyo and Osun states. In that studies, there are about 26.48% of non-literate farmers. In a study by Kende and Falaye 2014 in Osun State, we have about 26% of the farmers as non-literate. In a study by Kende et al. 2016, 22.4% of the farmers had no formal education. That was in Ondo State. Kende et al. Again 2018, in a study nationwide, 28.6% of the farmers were non-literate. The above finding shows that in spite of the fact that we have a very large proportion of literate farmers, there are still between 25 and 30% that are non-literate. The implication is that government needs to take seriously the policy of UBEC to ensure that all children of school age have compulsory basic education. This will, in the long run, change the structure of labor supply, shifting in favor of literate and better quality of labor, which will eventually revolutionize agriculture and food production in Nigeria. What of land? Most of my studies shows that on the average, farmers operated between 1 to 3 hectares of land. And what this goes to show is that farm sizes are rather disincentives for adoption of new technology and adoption of mechanization implements. This definitely has their consequences for national food security. Mechanization. In a study funded by a research grant from the Idachaba Foundation for Research and Scholarship in 2010, Kende 2011 investigated the determinant of tractor use in Osun State, using the tractor hire scheme of the state government as a case study. The tractor hire scheme comprised 336 tractors purchased by the state government in 2004. The scheme operated in 30 local government areas of the state with a tractor hiring center comprising 5 to 7 tractors, which commonly with common tractor mounted implements such as plow, harrow, ridger, slicer, carrier, and trailer. Interestingly, the tractor supply constituted an oversupply of this resource because it came at a time when there were limited tractorable land. And Osun State Agricultural Development Corporation, SADC, the government agency coordinating the scheme, consequently made a proposal for bulldozing of another 50 hectares of land to be brought into production. That study showed that 87% of the farmers utilized tractor hire service. It was also estimated that the tractor users had a net revenue of 43,050.78 kobo for against the net returns of 23,001.33 kobo for non-tractor users, which shows that tractor hiring or tractor use was more profitable than which indicated tractor use was more profitable. The study concluded that tractor hire was well adopted, but there was need to de-emphasize politicization of access to tractor use and the need to open up new lands for increased access to land, which will translate to more crop output by arable crop farmers. Fertilizers. Declining soil fertility has been identified as one of the reasons for slow growth rates in food production in Nigeria. Ogumola 2007. This has been the motivation for some of my works on the use of soil amendment materials of both inorganic and organic origin. Okoloko 2006 decried the abysmal usage of fertilizers in Nigeria and opined it was inadequate to meet the increasing need of the growing population. The proceeding was corroborated by data compiled from the World Bank in 2009, which showed clearly that Nigerian fertilizer consumption of 2.1 kilogram per hectare ranks higher than that of Togo, 1.0 kilogram per hectare, but is far below the 49.2 kilogram per hectare 239 kilograms per hectare, and 503.9 kilograms per hectare of South Africa, United Kingdom, and China, respectively. The charts above reflects the statistics that I've just given. And what this means is that when you look at fertilizer consumption against cereal yield, I think those two are plotted in the same chart. It is discovered that the countries that utilize fertilizer heavily have higher cereal yields than the one than those countries that consumes lower quantity of fertilizer. And what that suggests indirectly is that as a country, we need to increase fertilizer consumption if we must meet the national food needs. The administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan introduced the Growth Enhancement Support Scheme in 2012. The goal of this was to meet the shortfall in input availability to small farmers, chief among which was fertilizer and improved seed support. This study, therefore, that is a study on e-wallet scheme by Kende et al. 2016, therefore assessed the performance of the e-wallet scheme in Nigeria. 120 arable crop farmers were selected through the multi-state sampling technique in Ondo State, Nigeria. The study investigated the farm-level effect of the e-wallet fertilizer subsidy scheme in Nigeria. Results from the study showed that information about the scheme was well disseminated to farmers by agricultural extension agents. Delays in fertilizer distribution was the order of the day, similar to what obtained in previous fertilizer subsidy programs. Majority of farmers indicated interest in the continuation of the scheme, and political affiliation of beneficiaries were not important for access to fertilizer. It is recommended that government should address distribution aspect of the fertilizer supply by reappraising the performance of present actors in the distribution chain with a view to repositioning them for better performance. Government should make more budgetary provision for the scheme to increase the pool of beneficiary farmers and to ensure that fertilizer as well as planting materials are distributed accordingly to farm-specific needs. Although also a monitoring mechanism should be put in place at the local government level to monitor the farm output of benefiting farmers so as to properly account for the effect of the e-wallet fertilizer received by participating farmers. There was also a study by Awotide on fertilizer use in 2004, another one in 2004 by Adejobi et al. In the case of Adejobi et al., that study assessed the profitability the determinants of profitability of manure use among farmers in Kaduna State. In terms of profitability, which was plotted by gross margin, the users of organic manure received a gross margin of 78,122.85 naira against 48,538.10 kobo received by non-users, though the former spent more on variable inputs. The study generally observed low adoption of organic fertilizer and encouraged its use by farmers. I like to state my emotional attachments with the two last researches on fertilizers, which happened to be research I cut my research publication teeth with, and also happened to be joint publication with my two bosom friends, Dr. Wale Awotide and late Dr. Deji Adejobi. May his soul continue to rest in peace. These two publications set my academic publishing journey on course, and I'm thankful to both friends. Agricultural credit. Credit is an important resource in agricultural production, and its availability helps to reduce some of the constraints associated with capturing other factors of production. Cooperative societies are notable institutions for mobilizing credit for farmers. Kende et al. 2009 investigated the effect of agricultural cooperative societies on agricultural production. The study sample comprised 59 cooperative and 42 non-cooperative farmers. The study reviewed that membership of cooperative society encourage the use of more production resources, while farmers that are members of cooperative add higher total revenue than non-farmers of cooperative. This can be linked to better opportunities to loan by farmers who are members of cooperative. My experience with rice farmers, to drive home the importance of credit, my experience with rice farmers at Coca boundary of the main campus of Osun State is significant. During my interaction with two of the rice farmers who encroached on the university land and who were graciously allowed to harvest their rice farms so that the university could take over its land after they harvested their crops, I inquired why they had not harvested. The farmers responded by saying, "We don't have money to engage harvesters, so harvesting have to wait." I'm sure your guesses is as good as mine on what will befall the farmers if eventually they can't get access money to engage harvesters. I go to climate. Climate represents an externality that farmers have no direct control over. My research have always seen this as an important input that needed to be considered in farmers' input mix if they are to attain maximum possible outputs, given other production resources available at their disposal. Nigeria, like other countries, is not insulated from the effects and consequences of climate change. Global efforts are already underway to either mitigate or adapt to the changing climate. Let me move to a study still on climate, a study carried out in 2017. This study investigated the effect of climatic variables on the output of two important staples, rice and maize in Nigeria. Using secondary data for a 43-year period from 1970 to 2012, and data on climatic variables such as mean annual rainfall and average daily temperature were collected from the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, while data on annual output of rice and maize were collected from the National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria. The co-integration analysis reviewed long-run equilibrium relationship among mean annual rainfall and average daily temperature for the rice model. The resulting error correction model showed that annual temperature positively affected rice output, while mean daily temperature negatively influenced it. For the maize model, the co-integration analysis reviewed long-run equilibrium relationship among maize, rainfall, and daily temperature. The resulting ECM model indicating the previous year mean rainfall, that the previous year mean rainfall and average daily temperature values have strong positive influence on maize output. The study concluded that rice production should be concentrated in the southern and middle belt, while maize can be in the northern part of the country to take advantage of the difference in temperature requirement for their production. The crop enterprise mix. There's a table that shows the array of crop mix cultivated by arable crop farmers within the Southwest. So those are my humble contributions in terms of my direct research impact. I move straight to my contributions to consultancies. The knowledge gained over the years in my research work has also afforded me opportunities at different times to help solve practical farm level or farmers' problem through consultancies. Of particular mention are the consultancy engagement with Osun State Fadama 3 and Osun State Fadama 3 additional financing projects, a World Bank, federal, and state government supported projects. I have had the opportunity to build smallholder farmer capacity in the area of record keeping, credit mobilization, agricultural marketing, rural entrepreneurship promotion, group dynamics, and effective communication and community health management in over 10 local government areas in Osun State. This is my own humble contribution to smallholder agriculture and food security in Nigeria, and I hope to still do more. I am profoundly grateful to Osun State Fadama 3 for finding me worthy to serve in this capacity. So the pictures that follows are pictures of colleagues that we had together gone on capacity building journeys, stroke missions. That's a picture of a capacity building mission in Ife South local government, Ologe, the community in particular. The person on the extreme left, that is late Dr. Jimo. May his soul rest in perfect peace. We have picture 10, 11, capacity building mission within different communities. I mean, I think that runs from figure 9 to figure 13, different communities in Osun State. The future direction of my research. The significance of today's lecture is that it has afforded me the opportunity for stock taking and deep reflection on the progress I have made so far with scholarship. Today, no doubt, is the beginning of another phase in my research journey. Therefore, as I look ahead, I commit to work together with farmers to better manage their harvest to reduce post-harvest losses. This will involve investigating how best forward linkage relationship can be better established between farmers and industry. This may eventually contribute to policy on how Nigerian agriculture can transit from peasant to medium and large-scale mechanized agriculture, which will ultimately improve youth participation in agriculture, increase farming income, and welfare of farming household. Conclusions and recommendations. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience. About Easton stated, and I quote, "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. We cannot therefore continue with peasantized agriculture in its current form and expect to be a food self-sufficient nation. The truth is that we have tried and failed. Thus, we need to look for other models that work." The final note, that if Nigeria will substantially reduce food insecurity, the wisdom is that we need to transit from our present peasantized agriculture to medium to large-scale commercial and industrial agriculture. I therefore wish to propose the following recommendation. 1, government should consider the option of acquiring agricultural lands for new land settlement scheme. This is the way to go if you want the real change in food production. 2, new farm settlement schemes should be equipped with infrastructure that can attract youth into agriculture. No youth will go to farm if we are still using hoe and cutlass, but basic modern farm equipment will attract the youth. No youth will go to the farm if the roads is not motorable. Youth love beautiful roads. No youth will live in a settlement where there is no electricity. The youth must watch Premiership League and charge their phones. All these needs must be met in order to draw the youth to the best and most godly profession in the world, which is farming. Farmers should be supported to acquire simple climatic adaptation infrastructure such as functional water pump, boreholes for irrigation to reduce adverse effects of drought and sudden water scarcity on farm. Credit granting agency needs to work with farmers to draw business proposals that will make credit available at the different stage of production on the farm. 5, capacity building efforts by government and development agencies should target intended beneficiary, especially women. Women produce large volume of food, but they seem to suffer neglect and are cheated during the sharing of incentive for food production. Specific programs should focus on women and should be monitored to achieve success. Farmer groups and governments. Farmer group and government should revisit the introduction of the tractor hiring scheme and for effectiveness and sustainability. Capacity building on value addition and marketing should be promoted among farming communities to reduce the menace of post-harvest losses. The processors make more profits than the producers. We need a system that will empower our farmers as many processors so they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. Lastly, continued ban on imported food items by the present government is encouraged to promote local food production and preserve our scarce foreign exchange. We just have to start from somewhere. Institutional acknowledgement. I gratefully acknowledge African Forestry Research Network, the Dachaba Foundation, Osun State Fadamatri, for the support that they have given to me in terms of research grants and consultancy opportunities. I also thank my university, Osun State University, for giving me a base to operate. Acknowledgments. I thank God Almighty for His kind mercies and His grace that has brought me this far in life. I thank Him for the gift of life, particularly for making the presentation of today reality and the privilege to be listed among the League of Inaugural Lectures of this great university. I can imagine how onerous it can be to bring together a distinguished audience of this kind. I am indeed honored with your presence, and surely God's mercy that has brought you here will return you to your different destinations safely. Amen. As you may know, time may not allow me to sufficiently recognize within the lecture the great number of benefactors, colleagues, family members, and loved ones God has used to bless my academic career and life. However, I will attempt to touch on a few, and I kindly pray for forgiveness for those that may not be able to personally mention. On this note, I like to express my deepest gratitude to my parents, Pa Ademola Alani and Mrs. Agnes Olakende, who brought me to life. They are here. God bless you, sir and ma. I thank you for your support and encouragement, morally, spiritually, financially, all through my educational journey. I want to particularly appreciate you for your encouragement to commence my postgraduate training at a point I was at a crossroad and was not clear on how to move on with my career. God used you to shine light on the path that led me to where I am today. I'm eternally grateful for your timely intervention. Who knows what will have become my lot today? In the same vein, I thank my siblings, Abimbola Kehinde, Bolanle Ola, Kolawole Kehinde, Akinade Kehinde. They are scattered all over the world. Thanks for always being there for me. Let me also acknowledge so many father figures that have impacted so much in my life. My uncle, Larry Aderibigbe, Chief Alabi, Professor Pade Aderibigbe is here as well. Pharmacist, Moses Aderibigbe, Prince Dele Aderibigbe, retired Navy Captain Olarewaju, Honorable Barrister Femi Kehinde, Mrs. Cecilia Gidigbe, Mrs. Lola Oke is there, she's there as well. Mrs. Grace Okulu, Dr. Mrs. Toyin Aderibigbe, to mention a few. I'm profoundly grateful to you. I'm also grateful to the Kehinde families, the Aderibigbe families, the Olarewaju families. And particularly, also deserving special mention is the wonderful Ikotu family, my in-law, who have given me their priceless daughter. I owe special gratitude to my mother-in-law, Deaconess Victoria Ikotun, who has helped a great deal to stabilize my family, particularly those many occasions that my wife and I have had to be away from home on official duties. And I've always shown great care to see that every member of the family prospered. Let me also thank my teachers in Star School, teachers in Aberdeen College, my PhD supervisors, to mention, Professor Tomilayo Adekoye and Professor Titi Awoyemi, who is not able to attend physically, but is with us virtually. He has given his goodwill in the morning, and he prayed with me as well. I'd like to especially recognize the contribution of my lecturers at the Department of Agriculture Economy, from Professor J. Olayemi, even to the present HOD, Professor S.A. Yusuf, and my academic fathers at OAU, Professor Remi Adeyemo, Professor T. Alimi, and others in the department. Special attention goes to one of my mentors, Professor John Akonde, who is also here with us, a distinguished academic whom I cut my research teeth with and whom I collaborated with you on an African Forestry Network research grant. Professor Akonde, I'm indeed grateful, sir. I thank other colleagues like Dr. Wale Awotide, Dayo Akpata, Femi Agbola, and late Deji Adejobi for their friendship. To the Osun State University family, I want to thank Malam Yusuf Ali SAN, another distinguished member, for their effort towards promoting an academic environment where high-quality teaching and learning, as well as research, thrive. I move on to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Labo Debokola, a man that I have known since my primary school days at Star School, University of Ibadan, and a period that coincided with his doctoral student days at the Department of Forest Resources Management, University of Ibadan, where my mother was also the departmental secretary. Interestingly, fate brought us together again at Osun State University, and we have enjoyed a good and cordial working relationship. I appreciate your mentorship and kind interest in me over the years. I will not forget your kindness in reading through my PhD thesis for review, even when you were not my supervisor, nor in my supervisory committee. Interestingly, he also offered to read through a draft of this lecture. May God continue to bless you and yours. Sir, I'd like to also appreciate other principal officers. My very good friend, DVC Ari, Professor Anthony Kololusanya, another good friend, Professor J. Olaiton, the registrar, Mr. G. Shitu, Mr. Bola Feruke, my another friend, and Mr. Tinu and Mrs. Tinu Adewale, the librarian. I also like to thank those who have contributed to that has contributed to me administratively. Late Professor Adedoyin, Professor B. Olorede, Professor Osi Adeboye. Those are former provosts of agriculture. Professor Shola Akinrade, Professor Ebi Okeshino, Professor G. Olatunde, and Professor Oji Alamu, former acting vice chancellor. My debt of gratitude also goes to my colleagues in Ejigbo campus, former chairman, committee of provost and deans and director, Professor Shinyon Oyeweso, Olaide Oladele, Professor Edo Akitayo, Olaide Gbadamosi, Professor Kisito Folorunsho. My appreciation also goes to another very good friend and helper, Professor Emi Adeleke, who always refer to herself as steering director. I also want to thank Dr. Taiwo Jurungbe for the great support towards this inaugural. I want to thank Dr. Eo Busari, my HOD, Professor Temi Tokpe Balogun, Dr. Eo Akichoroton, and Professor Osi Adeboye, who all read my draft lecture at different points in time. To my Bowen family, I say a great thanks to you. I thank Dr. Tunde Lawal, Professor Bolanle Otegbayo, Dr. T. Shangoyomi, Deacon Dr. Olunlade, Professor Aru Adeniyi, and so many others. My debt of gratitude also goes to my spiritual circle, led by my senior pastor, Reverend Remi Okpigba, and Reverend Diron Adeleke for their prayers. I'm sure they are with us online too. Special thanks go to my circle of 30 years friendship, the Aberdeen College of Student Association. Let me specifically mention Debo Fagba, Misiri Okolo, Wale Lasisi, Kunle Olabisi ni Edokun, Alex Adegbile, Adeshina Adewola, Bidemi Alabi, Dare Oladeji, Choma Otis, Deborah Odunbaku, Wumi, Odeole Yinka Foja, and so many others that are here today. I'd like to specially thank Olu of Ilegbo, Oba Habib Adetoye Shagbaje, the traditional ruler of my town. He has always been very supportive and has shown great and have been source of great encouragement to me. I'm not sure, he already informed me that he had a very tight schedule today, that if he could join, he will join at some point. By extension, let me appreciate some elders in the community, Chief Are Nofew, President of IUF, Evangelist Michael Shwolale, who is here, Dr. King Ogunbiyi, and Justice Jude Falola, which I believe should be here as well. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience, I want to thank God for the kind of family he has blessed me with. He has given me supportive children who, regardless of how young are always eager to help out in their little ways. And I've always put up the best of behavior to ensure that I stayed focused with scholarship. Ifeoluwa, Okoyemi, and Oluwa Kehinde, you are all deeply appreciated. Thanks for bearing with your very busy father. Finally, my deepest gratitude goes to my wife. Please stand up for recognition. That's my sweetheart and advisor. For our love and understanding, you can please have your seats. I am glad you eventually understood why my computer had to keep running almost all the time. Thanks for bearing with all these inconveniences. I cannot forget the so many instances you have helped in my research by listening to my different stories and offering suggestions when I need a second opinion on knotty issues. Who says you are not a professor? May God continue to keep you. Before I close, the Olufon of Ifon, you are welcome, sir. You are greatly appreciated. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, and distinguished audience, I thank you for your kind attention and for being a good audience in the last over 1 hour of this lecture. Sorry for for stretching you beyond 1 hour. God bless. Thanks for your attention.
Please, short announcements. The invited guests only. The principal's officers, deans, please move to the council chamber for light entertainment. Anthems. Thank you very much. The possession and the reverse order. Please let us listen to this important announcement. All the professors and the members of the Committee of Provosts, Deans, and Directors should please remain seated here for their own entertainment. Please, all the provosts, deans, and directors should please remain seated on the red chair by my left-hand side. The HODs are to sit on this right-hand side for their own entertainment. The invited guests from Bowen University, Aberdeen College, Orita Mefa Baptist Church, please, let us please remain seated here for our own entertainment. In addition to that, please, all the Senate members and the deans and directors, there is still another entertainment for you by the university at the administrative block. Please, this is an important announcement. All the invited guests from Bowen University, please remain seated for your entertainment. Invited guests from Aberdeen College, please remain seated for your entertainment. Also, Orita Mefa Baptist Church. COPDD members, please remain seated on my left-hand side here, while the HODs that are here should please join the people sitting on my right-hand side for their entertainment. It will not take your time at all. Thank you very much for your understanding.
Building disciplined leaders, building quality lives, globally compensated graduates are the product of the nation, home of culture and good conduct.